Welcome to Hook 'em and Book 'em. In this workshop, you're going to learn how to write subject lines, hooks, and calls to action that draw in your customers and compel them to click. I'm your host, Brittany Long, and I write for a living because my parents couldn't or wouldn't come to most of my softball games. Let me explain, because I know that's kind of a weird statement. So I grew up thinking that there was something wrong with me. I played softball, I played volleyball, I played soccer, and one thing I noticed, didn't matter what sport it was or what year it was, what I noticed is that most of the time had their parents at most of their games. Mine were very few though. Now, before we go any further, I want to say I have great parents. I have loving parents. They are truly wonderful, truly a blessing. But at that time, they were both working in stressful, high intensity, always on type jobs. So by the time the workday ended, they were exhausted. Now, as an entrepreneur, you may feel that way too, where you kind of always have to be on, or it's stressful, or it's high intensity, or maybe it's just, a season of your life where you feel exhausted. But I would guess that maybe some of you listening right now feel that way. Now, them not being at my games had nothing to do with me, but it didn't stop me from thinking and feeling like it did. So let me go a little bit further here. I'm Brittany Long, and I write for a living because I want to help you have the energy and consistent financial security to show up for those that matter most to you. And so that is why I do what I do. That's why I write for a living, so that you are able to automate things and take time off and be present with your family while still having that financial security. So let's go ahead and jump in. Now, I write evergreen email sequences. I do other email sequences too, but specifically evergreen email sequences. And these are a year-long series of emails that nurture your audience, builds your authority, and make sales for you as new potential customers enter your list. Now, my goal here in this presentation is threefold. First, for you to know how to write subject lines that your potential customers can't wait to open. I'm going to show you just some subject line sorcery that's going to help with that. And increase your open rates, so double yay for that. I also want to show you some hooks that transport the reader from passive listener to engaged participant. Now, one other thing that you should know about me is I'm actually a former middle school science teacher, and I am not only that, but an award-winning middle school science teacher, and so that means a few things. It means that I want you to participate, even if you are watching this from the comfort of your home, and we are tens of thousands of miles apart. I still want you to participate in this because you're going to get more out of it if you do. And then finally, to learn clickable calls of action that compel your potential customer to do something, not just to read or listen to what you're saying, but to actually do something. Now that's important because more eyes on your sales page begins with more clicks. And we'll discuss this necessary but often overlooked element, which is the call to action. All right, so we're going to start with subject lines. Now, the goal of your subject line is to get that email opened. So here are some subject line do's. These are things, yes, you should be doing. So first of all, there are a few weird tricks. If you use words like you or your in your subject line, typically that's going to have a higher open rate. If you do 2 punctuation marks in a row, I know it's so weird, but this is one of those weird, like I said, subject line sorcery, those tricks that are going to work. And this is especially important to know these kind of patterns, especially with any changes that are happening with emails and being able to see the open rate. So this is really important. Using a bracket or parenthesis usually will raise your open rate. Having non-round numbers, so using 11 or 16 or 3 instead of saying 10 or 20. And having some kind of urgency. Why do they need to open it right now? A few other tricks. Usually you want to have your subject line 6 to 7 words long when possible. Having one strong emotive word, so that would be what I call a power word. Here's a few examples of some power words. So power words are typically words that you can picture in your head. So some great examples: hopeful, eye-opening, epic, thrilled, dynamic, careless are a few other ones. And then having at least one capitalized word. It's really interesting if you have 0 capitalized words versus at least 1 capitalized letter in a word. It makes a huge difference on that open rate. So super, super helpful to have that. And I'm going to show you how you can find some more of those little weird tricks in just a second. But first, let's talk about some subject line don'ts. All right, so these are things you don't want to do with your subject lines. First, don't capitalize more than one word. If you capitalize multiple words, it's going to often get flagged for spam, or it's not going to get open. So just avoid that altogether. Don't have a subject line that gets cut off due to length. This one is a little bit fluid. If you used all the do's and then it's a little bit long, then you can usually keep it in there. But ideally, we want to have it not get cut off due to length because your audience isn't going to be able to see everything they need to see. You don't want to overuse emojis or punctuation. So where I said if you have double punctuation, so 2 exclamation marks, 2 question marks, that's great. But if you have 3, if you have 4, if you have 5, and so on, that's where you're going to start to get marked down. So don't overuse emojis or punctuation. And then don't have the entire line and the entire subject line in lowercase. One other weird trick, don't forget to use interesting emotive words. And again, I call these power words. Now I'm going to show you a few tools that you can use to increase your open rate for your subject lines and just in general get better at writing subject lines. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. My favorites are subjectline.com, emailsubjectlinegrader.com, mailtester.com, and then using my list of power words, which I have included as a bonus for you. For subjectline.com, we want it to be 88% or higher every single time. If it's not 88% or higher, we don't use it. This is more the technical side of subject line. So this shows you technically what's right, what's correct. It also tells you how to improve and helps you see patterns. So I really like subjectline.com, and I'm going to show you how to use that right now. All right, so this is subjectline.com, and I love this site. It's been super, super useful. You will need to sign up for it and register for it, but it's free. But they will send you some emails and stuff, which will be really helpful as well. All right, so what I want to show you is a few of these subject lines. So I want to give you an example. Do you have kids? So what I want you to notice from this subject line is that it's all lowercase and there's one question mark. So let's go ahead and see how that performs. You just click evaluate and then wait a second. And that's going to show you, it's going to give you the score. It's also going to tell you the results. So it sees that there's no capitalization, first letter isn't capitalized, it doesn't have any urgency, but it does include you or your, so I got some positive points for that. And then gives you some advice here, and it scores you out of 100. So because it's lower than 88, I want to try again. This time I'm going to make some super, super simple tweaks. I'm going to say, do you have kids? Question mark, question mark. Now the reason I'm doing this, we talked about how having the double punctuation usually helps, and I capitalize like it said here. I still have you or your. First letter is now capitalized. So let's see what that does to that subject line. All right, this time I scored a 92, so almost 30 points higher just by having 1 capitalized letter and 2 exclamation marks instead of 1. Or sorry, question marks instead of 1. So this can make a big difference in your subject lines if you're using this tool consistently. So highly, highly recommend it. It's a super, super, super useful tool. My next favorite tool is emailsubjectlinegrader.com. This is more the emotion-based side of email marketing. This tells you if you're using the right kind of emotive words. So this is a really useful tool as well. It also gives you reminders of what to add in as well. And I'm going to show you how to use emailsubjectlinegrader.com right now. All right, so here's how to use emailsubjectlinegrader.com. I want to show you first the difference between subjectline.com and emailsubjectlinegrader.com. Like I said, this one is more of the emotion side of it. So you're going to get different insight than you would with subjectline.com. So as an example, we have the do you have kids one. It gives us a score of 77, and it says it's a question. So it reminds us that that's a good way to, or that's a good thing to do, is to have questions. Usually they make great headlines, perform better. It tells you, all right, this is a little bit short. We want to add some more characters in here, make it a little bit longer. And then it gives you those words that have, like, gives you the balance of those. So then let's go ahead and test this just so you can see the difference. So on subjectline.com, it lets us know, okay, this is going to perform higher. But on this one, it actually doesn't change anything because it's looking for something different. And so you'll see on this one, the score is the same. It tells you pretty much the exact same thing that it did before. So on this one, you can test a few different, like, split tests. The other one, subjectline.com, gives you some more of those specific, like those weird little tricks to test. So let's go ahead and use a different subject line for this one and see how it performs. All right, so this one I have is, you ready for this bombshell? There's a question, so we're going to get a good score for that. This one's 100. You're going to get a good score for that because there's a question. It has 5 words, which is close to the ideal word count of 6 or 7. It has a good balance, and then it tells me if I add in some more emotive words, action words or power words, that's going to it won't really increase the score because we can't do higher than 100, but it will increase the chances it'll get open. So let's go ahead and add one more word. We could use a word like massive. We could say, you finally ready, or are you finally ready? We could say epic. So those are just a few examples of words that we could use that might have an impact. Like I said, it's already performing here at 100, which is great. But if we want to do more of those emotive words like it suggests here, then we can do that. Here's another example. You're going to cry laughing when you hear this. This one only scores at a 70. And it says it's more general, so asking a question instead might be better. And the word count is a little bit high. So while the character count works, the word count is a little bit high, and it might get cut off. And then emotional word we have here is laughing. All right, so that is emailsubjectlinegrader.com. The next one is mailtester.com. This lets you know if your email is sounding spammy, and it helps you figure out if your subject line might impact your deliverability. So this is also super useful to use. You can also discover how deliverable your email address is. So if you have an email address that maybe has been marked as spam quite frequently, then this is going to let you know that. So this is a very useful tool. All right, now it's time to practice. What I'd like you to do is to write 3 subject lines using what you learned. You'll use the tools I mentioned to analyze them, and then make the suggested updates and analyze again until you get at least an 88% or higher on subjectline.com. Now, I know you might be tempted to move past this and not practice, but the practicing is an important part of all of this. And as a former teacher, I happen to know that the more that you practice this, the easier it will get for you. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to have you pause this video so that you can practice. And again, you're going to write 3 subject lines using what you learned, use the tools I mentioned to analyze them, make suggested edits, and analyze again. Pause this video. When you've done that and gotten at least an 88% or higher, you're going to come back and we'll be talking about hooks. Talk to you soon. All right, welcome back. Now we're talking about hooks. Now the entire goal of the hook is to keep them reading. If it's a yawn fest, you'll lose them before they even get to the 3rd sentence. So here is how to not make your emails a yawn fest. First, think of tabloids. They put the juiciest stuff out front so you can read it. Keep your audience in mind. You're not just writing to write. What will they want to hear about? It might technically be about you. The system that we use, we call the ATMRN method, and I talk more about it in our course, the Evergreen Email Accelerator. But the gist of it is that at every point in your email, you want to have some kind of storytelling that you bring them in on. Now with the storytelling, it is not about you. The story might be about you, but the whole point of the story is to get them to make it mean something about them. Get them to apply it to their life. So here are some do's with hooks. The first do is to keep an ongoing Google Doc of new hooks that you can add in so you don't have to think of them on the spot. And this is what I do. I call it a hook bank. I keep this, and I'll show you an example in a second, but I keep a hook bank so that anytime something pops up that I thought was interesting, a stat, a quote, any of that kind of stuff, anytime I see something that I think is interesting, I keep it on this hook document. And this is one of the ways that I can write emails faster. You also want to include numbers, statistics, shocking facts, curiosities, questions, quotes, action plops, any of that kind of stuff, because that's going to help hook them in, draw them in, get them interested. You want to get them interested from the very beginning. And really that starts with the subject line and then it continues with the first few lines of the email. But you want to grab their attention, you want to draw them in, you want them to be so interested that they have to keep reading. If you've ever read a book that you start reading right away and off the bat you're like, oh my gosh, I can't put this down, I can't wait to read more. It really starts with the beginning. If you start reading a book and the first page is super, super boring, are you going to be excited to keep reading? Absolutely not. It's the same thing with your emails. If you can get the first few lines to be really interesting for them where they can't wait to read more, that's really what we're looking at, because that's what's going to keep them coming back to your emails again and again. Now you want to remind them of the problem. You can use personalization at the beginning. So that would be saying, hey, and then their name, or saying Brittany, or whatever their name is. Brittany, you'll never guess what happened the other day. Brittany, did you know that X, Y, and Z? Brittany, I just made an epic mistake. Just using their name at the beginning and really using their name throughout helps them to stay engaged with your email as well. And then using you or your in the first few sentences is going to help with that as well. Now, just like we have the do's, we also have the don'ts. So here are some don'ts with hooks. Don't start at the very, 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 very beginning of a long story unless it will interest the reader. An example of this is on the show Schitt's Creek. What happens is Moira, she's one of the main characters, she's the mom, and she's kind of dramatic, she's an actress. She's talking to her son, David, and she's telling him about something that's actually really interesting. There was a person at their hotel who had something happen, he died, and she thinks it's her fault. And so that is a fairly interesting thing, like sad interesting, but still interesting thing. But what she started with was, I woke up and I opened my eyes. Nobody's going to read that. Nobody's going to want to continue to hear more about somebody just opening their eyes, staying in bed a little bit longer. So we want to put them in that action. We don't want to start at the very, 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 very beginning of, this morning I opened my eyes and I breathed in the air. We want to give them something interesting at the beginning, or they will not keep reading. And then don't expect your reader to hang in there for a few sentences. Start with the action right away. Start with a reason for them to keep reading right away. You also don't want to use all caps on multiple words or loads of exclamation marks. Again, that's something that is going to dissuade them from continuing to read. And also it's going to come across as a little bit spammy. We also don't want to forget to change name to the name personalization code in your email service provider. So what I see people doing sometimes is saying, hey, name, and using name as just that placeholder. If you're going to use that personalization, make sure you're putting in the code for it. And everybody's code is different depending on if you're using ConvertKit or ActiveCampaign or CartierMail or whatever it is that you're using, that code is going to be a little bit different. But make sure you put in that code so that it doesn't say, hey, name, when they get it. Instead, we want to say, hey, Brittany, or hey, Susan, or hey, Josh, or whatever their name is. All right, so here's a few examples of my hook and story bank. So I have a place for quotes. I have a place for statistics, action, middle of the story, something interesting, question, something shocking, something personal. So let's go ahead and look at a few of these here. All right, so in my quotes, I have, you are the master of your destiny. You can influence, direct, and control your environment. You can make your life what you want it to be. That one was interesting to me. Study successful people in business, then do what they did to become successful while making slight modifications to fit your lifestyle, your values, your business model, and your goals. So as I'm going through, there's just a few things that I've heard that I thought was interesting. Statistics, 13% of entrepreneurs make it to the multi-millions. 96% of millionaires in the United States are first-generation millionaires. And these are just example statistics. I didn't actually check these, so I don't know. Please don't use them as fact because I did not check them. This is just to give you an example. Action, middle of the story would be slip, crack, blackness. Is that something that you'd want to read more about? Does it pique your curiosity? That's the goal there. I couldn't see anything around me. Suddenly a loud voice emerged from the void. And that's actually something that happened to me when I was in 7th grade. So that's something that I could use. Something shocking. My dad didn't think I could do it. He didn't want me to become an entrepreneur. Somebody telling me that I was one of the things that should die. Obviously, I don't usually go that dark that fast on things, but that's something that somebody told me on ad. So that was fun. But that's something that I could bring in because I know if you're an entrepreneur and you run ads, you've had those spammy kind of comments. You've had those comments from people that are like so mad that you would have the audacity to run ads and that they would see it and all of those kind of things. So depending on your audience, something like that might be relatable. The point of this is to have a jumping off place. And the jumping off place is really just a way to write your emails faster and to make sure that you are not feeling that writer's block. A lot of times people will tell me, I don't know what to write about, or they get that writer's block. And so having these hooks written down so that when you read something that's interesting or that piques your curiosity, or you think about something that happened, a memory that you're like, man, that was weird, having those things on there. They are a good jumping off point, and I can pick and choose from them so I'm not starting to scratch. I'm not sitting there kind of scratching my head wondering what I should write about. All right, so now it is time to practice our hooks. What I'd like you to do is write 2 hooks for the same email. Ask someone from your audience or ideal customer to read both and tell you which made them want to keep reading and why. Now that could be a friend. It doesn't have to be somebody from your actual email list that's on your audience, but somebody that fits your audience and would be willing to tell you what they think. So what I'd like you to do is to pause this video and then come back when you're done after you have practiced. What we're going to be talking about next is one of my favorite things, and that is the call to action. I'll see you soon. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed writing your hooks. The next thing we are talking about today is the call to action. If your call to action isn't compelling enough, nobody's going to do anything. If your call to action is confusing, nobody's going to do anything. So call to actions are very, very important. Now, one of the reasons it's important is because your sales are a number game. So the lower the numbers, which means the fewer clicks on your call to action, the more traffic you have to get to your page. That just means more work for you, more work for your ad person. Even if you don't have an ad person, it's still more work for you either way. And so we want to avoid that. We want to help your numbers game be better by having higher number of clicks on your call to action, which means you have more eyes on the sales page anytime you're doing some kind of sale or offer. All right, now this will apply even if you're not making an offer, even if it's not an offer email, this will still apply. The call to action will still be helpful. So we're going to use the all yes method. So the A in all yes stands for action. What is the action that you want the reader to take? So here are a few examples that you can use for action. So we have read more, learn more, get started, find, try, follow, like, shop, yes, order, start, upgrade, make me, find out, I'm ready to, complete, take, leave, give us, let us know, I want to, subscribe, get started, reserve, pick, see more, see how, check it out, take advantage of, and buy. So those are a few examples that you can use to make it clear what action you want your reader to take. And as a bonus, I've also included the call to action workbook that I use with my team internally that gives them so many options and so many examples of this, even more than what you see here. The next W, or the next letter, is a W, and that stands for what. So they're taking the action, but what is the reward? In other words, what will they get out of it for taking action? So your actions are going to be different depending on if your audience is hot or cold. So if your audience is cold, then you might say something like read more, learn more, explore, get started, find, try. It's a lot less committal, a lot more passive, a lot less pressure, and a lot less, I don't know if pushy is the right word, but it's a lot more passive. And again, that is if it is a cold audience. Now, if it's a hot audience, that's going to be a little bit different. You're able to be a little bit more direct and say things like submit, sign up, buy now, shop now, enroll now, act now. You're able to have more of that urgency without it sounding pushy because they're a hot audience. They already know you, like you, and hopefully trust you. Now, the first W stands for what. So they're taking action. What is a reward? In other words, what are they gonna get out of taking action? For example, and download my audiobook for free today, the what would be my audiobook. So what is it that they are getting out of the action that they're taking? So another example, download my audiobook, and then whatever the book name is. So again, I have more examples in the PDF I talked about earlier, the training that I do with my team internally, and I think that will help as well. The next W stands for why. So the why, this one is optional. This adds in the emotion part of it. The reason this is optional is because this typically makes the call to action longer. So if you want a shorter call to action, then you're going to skip this and just add the urgency, which is in the next step. So for example, the why, adding the emotional side of it, you could say download my audiobook, whatever the book name is, to fast track your business today. That'd be an example of giving them some kind of why on it. And so that is, if you want a longer call to action, or if you're okay with a longer call to action, you can add in the why. And then the next thing is to add in that urgency. So that's a yes part of the all yes method. And we want to add in urgency. So some examples might be now, and soon, only, however many left, filling up quickly, while supplies last, while spots last, fast, quick, discount last, don't miss out, expires, while they last, fast, final, first, early bird, last time, don't delay, one day only, never again, last chance, price going up, now or never, and final sale. All right, so a few other final helpful and often unknown tips for you. When possible, use first person or personalize with the name. So when we're doing the subject line and when we're doing the first few sentences, we want to use that you or your. But when we're doing the call to action, we want to say me or my. You want to add in the benefit. You let them know, so that would be the why. Why is it that they're clicking now? Using powerful objectives, using powerful adjectives, using non-round numbers. So this would be like, download my free report on 7 ways you can X, Y, and Z. And then mixing your call to action up. So you don't want to have a call to action in every single email. As I mentioned earlier, I do evergreen emails. And so with that, I do 52 emails at least, sometimes 52, sometimes 104, sometimes 154. And with each of those, we want to make sure that we're mixing the call to action up so that not every email is asking them to respond. Not every email is asking them to go do a podcast episode or a blog post. We want to keep them, we want to keep circling it through so that it's engaging, so they don't know what's coming up, so it keeps them interested in reading more. All right, so now it's time to practice. What I'd like you to do is write your call to action. Does it make you or your ideal customer want to click? If not, back to the drawing board. Go ahead and pause this recording. When you're done, come back, and I have one final assignment for you. Now it is time to wrap up. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I have a homework assignment for you, and I'd love to hear about it when you're done. So what's next is you're going to pick an option below. Option 3 is to pick 3 of your subject lines to analyze from emails that you've sent out in the past. Make suggested edits, and then you can change it, or if possible, split test it. So take those subject lines, analyze them, improve them, and then either split test them with the original that you have, or just replace it with the original that you have, as long as it is performing higher. Option B is to pick 3 of your hooks to update. So again, that's from emails that you already have, ideally in your sequences. Or option C, pick 3 of your subject lines to make more compelling, and then update those as well. After you've done that, you're going to watch the data and see those higher open rates and see those higher click rates. Each time you've picked 3, then pick 3. Each time you've picked 3 and updated them, then you're going to pick 3 more. So you don't have to update them all at once. In fact, it's usually better if you don't. You're just going to do 3 at a time. And you may be thinking, okay, Brittany, what emails should I start with? So you want to start with your sequences. The reason you want to start with those is because you already have data from those. And also, once you have data from the new updates that you make, you can start using the same strategies with your weekly communications. But because you already have data from those sequences and you can test them against the new subject lines, the new hooks, the new calls to action, you're able to really get that side-by-side data. So you want to start with your sequences. The other reason you want to start with them is because they're already consistently going out to your audience. And so if you can make those tweaks there, it's going to help you with those weekly communications that you do later that are broadcasts that are on the spot. These are the sequences that I would start with because they will have the highest return on your investment for your time. The first one is the abandoned cart sequence, then welcome emails, evergreen sequence emails, and then affiliate sequence emails. Those are the 4 sequences I would start with before even touching your broadcast emails, because not only will you get that data, but especially with abandoned cart emails and especially with evergreen sequence emails, you should see more sales from those as well if you're updating the calls to action, the hooks, and the subject lines according to what we talked about today. Once you've updated those, then it's time to update your broadcast emails. So again, updating your sequences should be first because those will be and are being used again and again and again on autopilot, so you'll see the biggest transformation for your time. Thank you again so much for being here. I'm Brittany Long. I'm the queen of evergreen emails, and I have a little treat for you. Once you've completed your wrap-up assignment, send me an email at brittany@winwithsystems.com, and I'll take a look at them. I'll talk to you soon.